Weinshell. My name is Carol Weinshell, and we are celebrating night 5 of Hanukkah and must start exactly on time tonight in order to make Shabbat. So we're going to do the Hanukkah candles first. Cantor Naima will lead us. We're going to do Shabbat. Edith Winick will lead us, and then we'll go into the program. So I'll come back again. Cantor Naima, take it away.
Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
Yeah, they're lighting now. Go ahead, light it.
Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של חנוכה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם שעשה ניסים לאבותינו בימים ההם בזמן הזה. מהו צור ישועתי לך נאה לשבח תיקון בית תפילתי ושם תודה נזבח לתכין מטבח מצור המנבח אז אגמור בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח אז אגמור בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח. Edith, you're on.
Thank you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech le'olam asher kishonu b'mitzvotav v'tzivonu l'nadlik ner shel.
Amen.
Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kishonu b'mitzvotav v'tzivonu. Shabbat.
Thank you, Edith. Happy Hanukkah and good Shabbos. Rabbi, are we ready? Can I start?
Carol, I'm sorry, I just cut out. Were you saying something?
Yeah, I can start. We made it. Yes?
Absolutely. We at Rodeph Sholom, we do it right and proper.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, so tonight is night 6, and we are going to several places tonight. Larry Shire is going to take us to Hungary. When he is finished, well, he's not going alone. He has a travel companion, and his companion is Edith Winick. So I won't tell you what's coming next. I will turn it over to Larry and Edith, and I need to share my screen. So here goes.
The screen sharing will show we have a number of beautiful pictures from Budapest. And we see here the Great Synagogue. This is one of the pictures. It's a little, I guess I don't have a full screen for some reason with that. But anyway, I know what the pictures are. So actually, before I begin talking about the Great Synagogue in Budapest, I came across an interesting thing, and maybe one of the other people can put this to rest later. When I was trying to find out how many Jews live in Hungary now, it was a little bit confusing. We do know that pre-Holocaust, there was about 825,000 Jews. In fact, they made up about a quarter of the city's population, roughly what at the peak in the 70s or 80s, what Jewish population in New York was. And that after the Holocaust, many fewer, because most of them died in 1944, more on that later. So when I went to look for numbers, it ranged greatly, as few as 50,000, as many as 120,000. And that was even using good sources such as the World Jewish Congress. So it's not known exactly how many are there. However, a lot of Jews kept it low profile all during the communist era. It was not particularly smart to be religious at all, and especially to be Jewish and religious. So a lot of people kept it undercover during the communist era. But on to the Great Synagogue. And if you've never been inside, I mean, there are beautiful pictures coming, and you can go on YouTube. There's actually a few concerts. This is just a beautiful picture right here. And it was built in a residential area by the Jewish community of the Pest part of Budapest, according to the plans of Ludwig Foster. It's the second largest synagogue in the world, a working synagogue. There's about 3,000 seats. They do have the downstairs and the upstairs, so it's equally divided between about 1,400 and nearly 1,500 for the men and 1,500 for the women upstairs. I think the only other synagogue that's larger is Temple Emmanuel in New York. And then I also saw that maybe one in Jerusalem that is larger. The consecration of the synagogue took place in September of 1859. So, Carol, you can move on to just a couple more pictures. You're just going to see the beautiful architecture. You can see how huge it is from the outside. That's facing the main street. And so like I said, it was started in 1854, completed in 1859. The architect who designed the interior decoration was Frigyes Fetzel, Ludwig Foster's rival. And actually he had done many churches. So when you see inside, you may see some resemblance to that. It has the Moorish style and also the Romantic and Byzantine influences. And the synagogue, you can keep going, Carol. On to another slide. I took a few small pictures just to show the architecture. Here's one of the lights. Or is that might be the Ner Tamid, actually. Yeah, it's right above the bima, so that's probably the Ner Tamid. And it is just the architecture and everything is beautiful. Let's see. For those who are wondering, more architecture inside, in the Great Synagogue during the 30s and 40s, because there was the Arrow Cross Party, which was a Hungarian fascist group, they attacked the Great Synagogue in 1939. When the Nazis invaded, the Budapest ghetto was created around the synagogue and was actually transformed into a German radio base and later into stables. And as terrible as that sounds, that's probably what saved the synagogue from being completely razed to the ground. Okay. And then it wasn't until the 1990s, after the fall of the Soviet Empire, that the Great Synagogue was finally renovated. And you may or may not, there you see a close-up of it. And like I said, if you go on YouTube, you can see a concert of it that's done live there, and it's just wonderful. The 1990s, they did a fundraiser to try to restore inside, and 2 Jewish Americans, which the names you will recognize, contributed significant amounts of money. One was Estee Lauder, okay, and the second was actor Tony Curtis, who took this on as a thing. In addition, when they did the renovation or the restoring, they put a museum, a memorial park, and a memorial that adjoins the Great Synagogue were also built in the 1990s. And we will get to that in a little bit too. Okay, Carol, you can, I'm not sure how many more you have. There's another view inside, just magnificent. I mean, you know, definitely very, very, very beautiful. This is what they call the tree of life. This is behind the synagogue. This is, everybody knows who Raoul Wallenberg was, the Swedish diplomat who tried to and did save Jewish lives. This was a memorial plaza behind the synagogue with this. This is made of metal, and it's like a weeping willow, and the branches are supposed to actually be like a menorah upside down, an upside down menorah. And on each of the leaves are some of the local people who died in the ghetto there, or in Auschwitz. Any more, Carol? I can't see where.
Yes.
We are. Okay. There's
You
a far
see
view
that?
of it. Yeah,
Okay.
same picture. And again,
know
this
what-
is right behind the synagogue. Now, this is, I want to point this out. This is a memorial that was built because when the Arrow Cross, but this is before the Germans arrived, they killed a number of Jews along the riverbank, and they made them take their shoes off. So there's a memorial here that was made right along the riverbank. The shoes are bronzed so that they last up in the weather, and along the banks of the river. The monument consists solely of shoes made of bronze, recalling the fact that the victims were made to leave their shoes along the shore. It's very emotional when you're standing there, see that. And so many, we know, and I'm sure we all know people, so many boats have gone up and down the Danube there, you know, on their way to the various countries on these river trips. I don't know if people realize what this is, right in the vicinity of the parliament, but not directly next to it. Do we have a close-up of that? Yes. And people sometimes leave flowers in there. And I just wanted to very briefly talk about Hanukkah celebration, because like I said, many Jews have kind of come out of hiding, so to speak. So it's mostly organized by Chabad, but for this past few years, they've been coming out. They celebrate Hanukkah, and there's an ice skating rink that Chabad rents for $12,000. I don't know if that's for one night or several nights, and they do ice skating there in celebration of Hanukkah for the holidays. And it's one of the few places where Hanukkah on ice has taken root. And again, it's mostly organized by the Chabad rabbis and community, and then of course they pass out the various delicacies. Does anybody have a question about anything that I've covered? We still have Edith, who's going to fill in a lot of gaps. And oh, there's another picture showing it like in the old days, the synagogue packed. Anybody have a question for now?
I have a quick question,
Yes,
quick.
Rabbi.
I was struck by when you showed the picture of the interior of the synagogue.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us have, in the past, had the chance to watch the live casts from the Central Synagogue in New York.
Yes.
And I'm wondering whether the Central Synagogue in New York was built kind of along a similar model of the Hungarian Great Synagogue.
Yeah, it's funny because the outside certainly resembles it with the Moorish design. I don't know about the inside. That's something I will look up and get back to you.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but it looked similar. Yeah.
You're right. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I can't see any of you while I'm sharing right now. So Larry, I'm going to call on your travel partner.
Yep.
And maybe when she's through, people might have comments for the two of you, and then I can stop sharing.
Very good.
Okay, thank
Yep.
you so much. That was really very interesting. That I never knew anything at all about that synagogue, let alone the shoes. So Edith, are you unmuted? Edith?
No, sure, I am now.
Okay, so you're going to take us now back out of the
Right.
city. Okay, so the floor is yours.
The
And
picture
just
that,
tell me, Edith, tell me when you want me to move to the next slide, okay?
the picture that's on the screen now has the name of my village in Hungary. And as the arrow is pointing toward where we're going, near Mada, which is the village that I grew up in. But what I would, and this picture, by the way, is from 1983, when I went back to visit the village to see what it looked like at that time. But actually, I want to talk about Hungary's history, because the Hungarian history has some events in it that really impacted on all of Jews, even to this day. So I just picked a few things. It has a very colorful, very active Jewish history. A lot of countries came to live in Hungary. I'm not sure what the attraction was, but that people came from Poland, and the culture was mixed with all those different countries. Anyway, Jews lived in Hungary. I'm going to read what I wrote, so forgive me for that. Jews lived in Hungary as far back as the year 300. Whatever we know of them for the next hundreds of years, we learned from Jewish laws and Jewish scholars. The fate of the Jews in Hungary depended on the special restrictions and decrees legislated by the princes and the wealthy landowners who governed Hungary. These laws only highlighted the separateness of the Jews from the other people of the country. Jews were not allowed to own land, so they became merchants, bankers, tailors, and skilled workers for the elite landowners. The Turks invaded Hungary, and that was an influence, and contributed to the culture, and actually gave Jews a taste of some freedoms, which the Hungarians had not yet granted them. The Catholic Church tried to convert them. This was their method for eliminating the Jews. At times, the Hungarians embraced and supported the Jews for their skills and for their beneficent effect on the Hungarian economy. At other times, they expelled them from the cities, forcing them to live in small communities and villages. Despite restrictions, many Hungarian Jews became scholars, artists, and great political figures like Theodor Herzl, and great rabbis like the Satmar rabbis. In 800, Jews started to assimilate and became more prosperous and had a presence in the Hungarian government, but most Jews remained poor. This progress caused an increase in anti-Semitism and gave rise to accusations of blood libel and anti-Semitic riots, in spite of the fact that the murder related to the charges proved to be not true. In the 1800s, with more freedoms came differences in how intellectual Jews thought about Judaism and its practices. Liberal neologues Neo-Laik thinkers under the leadership of Rabbi Leopold Low and then Orthodox Rabbi Moshe Sofer, a founder of a strong Orthodox tradition, tried to come to some agreement about Jewish theology and ritual at a Congress in Budapest. They failed, causing some separate Orthodox and liberal communities to form. This remains an issue even today. In the late 1800s, Hungarian Jews were sympathetic to communist ideas and actively participated in the cause. Life in the small villages was different from the middle class and the sophisticated lives of the cultured, educated Jews of Budapest, and where that beautiful church is. That's an example of the art and of the Budapest. Actually, the play Fiddlers on the Roof got it, but was missing a few details. So those are the details I want to fill in from my own life. In the villages, Jews sent their children to Jewish schools attached to synagogues. Jewish children were not always welcome in the public schools. In the synagogue schools, 2 or 3 classes could be present in the same class, learning, reading, writing, math, and the history of Hungary. In addition, boys went to Cheder for Jewish learning, and the girls learned kashrut from their mothers. They did not get any Jewish education. Actually, I didn't start to learn how to really read Hebrew until I came to the United States, and I went to a Havasachem synagogue. If there was some controversy among the Jewish families in the village, the families avoided the government offices and went to the rabbi for decisions. Holidays and Shabbat preparation included dropping in a casserole of beans, potatoes, barley, and meat at the local baker's oven to cook overnight. This dish was called cholent. Some of you may be familiar with it. The Orthodox are still serving it on Shabbos. On the way home from shul, we picked up this feast and took it home for lunch. Hanukkah practices were similar to others. There were candles and singing. There were no donuts. We had oranges, which was a special treat, and because rare tropical fruits rarely reached us in the northeast corner of a landlocked Hungary. On Hanukkah, we roasted a goose that my mother had fattened with hand feeding for months before Hanukkah. We played with dreidels, but for walnuts rather than candy and coins. Sometimes kids got a few coins for Hanukkah geld. This ended for me in September 1939. Hitler was in Poland. England declared war on Germany. The English Channel was closed to refugee ships. In the middle of the night, in secrecy, my family and I piled into a horse-drawn wagon and started on the first leg of a long journey to the United States. And that's the part, that's
Wow.
significant, that's only a small part of the significance that Hungarian Jews had on the Jewish world at large and on Hungary itself.
Carol, I think you can advance the PowerPoint for the pictures of
Yeah.
Nuremberg.
Well, this is just a sample of the types of buildings that were in the house. And I believe that this is the synagogue. And somewhere on the side is the synagogue school, and somewhere on the side. And this was a typical housing. The people you see here are not us, but my sister Kathy and her husband and I were present in some of the pictures. This is the type of housing they had, and this was in 1983. So they had not advanced too far from, I'm talking about 80 years ago.
Edith, with all
Pardon
due respect, that's my mother and you in that picture. Not the woman with the Hungarian dress, but my mother near the dog, and you're the other woman.
Yeah, that it is. That's right. That's right. It is. And she's talking to a native, to a Hungarian. And I think I am the one who's looking at the house, facing the house. and
Wow.
carrying a book. I always carry a big pocketbook, yeah. You can advance it, Carol.
Okay,
And
so,
these are some of the Hungarians that we met in 1983. Kathy is there, I am there, who some of these people knew us when we were children, and they were very excited about our being there. But there was only one Jew left in town, and he was the banker for us when I was growing up. He was the Jewish banker. He lost his first family in the Holocaust, came back to live in the town anyway, and he was the only one Jew that was still living in town in 1983. And he welcomed us, and he had opened his house and became the banker for the Russians at that time, the Russian natives. But he lived alone in just 2 rooms of the house. He was very happy to get visitors. Unfortunately, we followed up with him 6 months later to see how he was doing when we came back to the United States, and some hoodlums had come and killed him, robbed him and killed him.
Edith, didn't he also try to say that your father owed him money? Didn't he tell you and my mother that your father owed him money from back
He
way
might
back?
have, and my father might have not. I wouldn't be a bit surprised. It was not easy to make a living in Hungary for a Jew. As black as it sounds, we as children, we had fun. We played in the fields. It was wine country. We went and ate grapes right off the vine. It was fun. We were children. We enjoyed it. We didn't know better. Any other people?
Just, Edith, I enjoyed your speech and your talk because of the food of Cholent, how that a special Hungarian dish. But for those, remember, Budapest is actually 2 separate entities separated by a river. So you go from Buda, which is one town, you cross a bridge, and then get into Pest.
Actually, Buda was very heavily populated by Jews, more so than.
And Buda had the parliament. The other thing is, on the great big synagogue, they had a beautiful Holocaust memorial, Larry. I assume you had seen that.
Larry, you're muted.
The Holocaust memorial.
Oh, they have a Holocaust memorial and they have a Holocaust museum down the street. That area right around the synagogue, that is the Jewish
Yes.
quarter still. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I did
Because
see. that,
we
yes.
traveled there and we found a Jewish kosher restaurant, and we spent quite some time there.
Were you
So-
at the one, Ernie, were you at the one, there's one there, and I noticed it in one, when I was doing my research, it's still listed in the guidebook, so it's there 10 years later. It's where it's a restaurant, and then they have, as part of it, they do it like a dinner show, and then they take you to the back of the restaurant and through like a tunnel, and you go to the other side, and you go into a small auditorium, and they put on a klezmer show, music show for you. And
No,
it's a great thing.
What year did you go?
I think it was 2011, 2012.
I was there before. No,
Okay.
no, I didn't see that.
It's Spinoza.
But
I think it's called
but I'll tell you,
Spinoza's.
the thing that
Spinoza's
got-
restaurant, but
The
it's great, but they're
heartwarming,
still the Jewish quarter there, yeah.
Lisa?
the most
I just wanna
heartwarming
add-
thing that I had, that left me with an impression was the shoes on the river. I went there and I cried. You see men's shoes, baby shoes. You see women's high heel shoes. But you also see some desecration by some idiot who tried to destroy 1 or 2 of the shows. And I actually said Kaddish there when I had seen the shoes, because it's a vivid impression that you can never forget.
Right.
Larry,
you,
thank
Ernie.
you. Thank you.
I
Yeah.
felt so important about including that.
Edith,
Please.
what did you leave Hungary?
1939. We were on the Vulcania, which was next to the last ship to leave Europe.
You're about.
So Lisa,
I was just going to add something interesting about Buda. As they said, a lot of Jews lived in the Buda part of Budapest. When I was there, what I found fascinating was in Hungary, the style, maybe in a lot of places in Europe, the style of apartment buildings, and you see it in New York sometimes too, is, you know, you go into an entrance and the building is a big square with a courtyard in the middle. And that's
Right.
very popular in Hungary.
I
And in Buda, when Jews wanted to hide pretty much their goings on and didn't want to be so out in the open, they would build synagogues in these courtyards of these apartment buildings. We went into one where the synagogue is right smack up against the balconies and the windows of all the surrounding apartments. So, you know, it really obstructed what the people used to have as a view down and access down to a courtyard, but that's how they kind of stayed, you know, under the radar to worship in these synagogues built inside the courtyards. Thought that was interesting.
Lisa, I was just going to add on that Lisa, that when in the area around where the great synagogue is, there's those same sort of buildings there, because
Yes.
that was Jewish Quarter.
That's
And
right.
I took a few minutes. This is, I think, before or after I had come out of the Holocaust Memorial Museum. And I just imagine, you could walk into those courtyards, and I just looked around and I transported myself back like to 1944, which is when the majority of Jews were taken from there off to the death camps. And I just kind of put myself, I kind of almost like channeled myself into that experience.
Well, it's not hard to do. My experience in Budapest is not hard to do because they haven't done much renovating. It's really in poor condition when you compare it to other Eastern European cities like Prague, which looks brand spanking new, almost like Disneyland. Budapest, I loved it, but it's really depressed, really in not great condition. So it's not hard to transport yourself backward in time.
Edith,
Edith, I had a question. Edith?
Go ahead.
Is that Judy? Yeah.
Yes. Did you have to be sponsored to come to the United States? How did
Yes,
you get out?
We're sponsored, my maiden name is Mandel. We were sponsored by a family in Detroit or Chicago whose name was Mandel. They're great philanthropists. They have opened many schools. It was one of their children that was killed in Israel when he was walking in the desert. And his mother came to the United States and lectured.
Kobe Mandel.
yeah.
Yeah, and that my name was Mandel, and in some way we were related to them, and they sponsored us. Those Mandels from Detroit sponsored us.
You were
That
very
was-
lucky you got out.
Well, it wasn't a nick of time, and the only reason it happened is because my father was friends with the local police chief, and they played cards together, and the chief said to my father, Chaim, get your family out of here because there's trouble coming.
Very
So-
similar story to my mother's story in Germany. Same kind of thing.
If you were friends with the non-Jews, they would help you out.
Right.
So.
a story
so-
that I
so-
remember. When I was in Hungary, I was fortunate to go to the town that my father was raised in. We went to a local Jewish cemetery, and I found the tombstone of my grandfather. And the cemetery is being maintained by a person that is not Jewish, but he makes a living by talking about the cemetery and collecting donations.
So I want to go back for a second to something Lisa said. Lisa, was that the mother who spoke at one of the Rappoport lectures, Mandel?
I didn't remember that she did. I have seen her speak, but I don't remember that she came to Rodeph Sholom. She may have. But, and I also didn't know the family connection to her.
I spoke to her, so she must have been here because I remember.
Maybe she was. She probably, I'd seen her at other places and maybe I just didn't remember. I also saw her.
It was her son who was killed.
Yes, a young boy with his
Yes.
friend. They were
Yes.
by rocks in the head.
Yes, yes. A number of years ago, she spoke at one of the Rappoport.
That's true.
lectures.
She did come to Rodeph. I do remember.
I can see you and Billy and Phyllis
Yeah.
and Marilyn, but I still have the picture.
So you can
I
prove it.
didn't know the connection.
I didn't either.
Yeah. Judy, you have another question? Or
No.
not? Okay. Anybody else before we leave Hungary? And I have something I want to say, and I'd like Rabbi Eisenberg to make a comment also. I don't think we could have had better travel companions. I hope Larry and Edith, that traveling together was good for both of you, because you certainly complemented each other by the history, by your stories, by what you learned, what you knew, and how you shared. It was so heartwarming and with great feeling. And I thank you both.
Carol, I just want to add, and if there's no time for my pictures from
No,
Poland,
no,
it's fine,
there's
but I
no,
also,
there's plenty of time, Lisa.
I also went to a cemetery looking in Nirmada, looking for my relatives, and we found one that was half kind of in, bad repair and half that was restored. And we went into the town and knocked on some non-Jew's door who gave us a key to the gate. We went, and I was looking for my relatives, but all the tombstones were written in Hebrew letters, but the Yiddish, it was the Yiddish spelling. So I was looking for Mandel. I couldn't find any of the females in the family because they didn't have their last names. All they would say is, Sarah, wife of Abraham. Well, I gave up on the woman's side. I said, I'm never going to find anybody here. But I did go up and down the rows reading, and I came to the Mandel stone, but I didn't recognize it right away because it was like Mem, Yud, Nun. It was some Yiddishized verse. I thought it would be Mem, Nud, Nun, Dalid, Lamed, Mandel, but it wasn't. And I sounded it out, Mandel. I said, oh, I'm saying Mandel. So I found his tombstone.
That's
I took pictures
great.
of it. And Rabbi
Well,
Stein
Rabbi-
translated it for me.
I interpreted the.
There he is. There he is.
So-
This is the man who was buried there. This is my grandfather, and I miss him to this day.
Wow,
It was his grave that Lisa visited.
that's amazing. And you didn't plan that for this program, did you?
No, I just picked it up because the subject came up.
Rabbi, the comment that you put in the chat, would you say it out loud?
Oh, sure. It's really a no-brainer. I said something like, Edith is Hungary's gift to Rodeph Sholom.
Rabbi, you're very.
And I know that's one thing that everybody on this call would 100% agree with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Very nice.
Thank you. So thank you, Larry. Thank you, Edith. Don't be surprised if I call on you to do something else again. It was fabulous. And now we're going to get on a plane. I think we have to get on a plane. And
we
we're going, what, Lisa?
We drove, but it's okay.
Oh, you drove. So then we'll go with Lisa, because we're going now from Hungary to Poland. And I'm going to share the screen for Lisa Rappoport. So
I'll be
bear
very
with-
quick. I don't have a lot of history. We all know a lot of history. And I actually went from Poland to Hungary. It was on a trip I took with my son's senior class. It was kind of like a walk of the living, but not exactly. It was a heritage program. And my sister and I accompanied the high school seniors just because we wanted to. And we did this tour of Hungary, and then the kids went on to Israel, and my sister and I drove to Hungary and other places. But that's when I went to Nirmada.
So
Anyway.
just tell me when you want me to move.
Okay.
Okay.
So, we have been told that there was this resurgence and renewal of Jewish life in Eastern Europe in general, and Poland in particular, Warsaw in particular. And I will say that it was kind of depressing because we didn't really find that to be the case. And Larry, you said it's hard to get a count of Jews in Budapest or Hungary, but that's because, the population we all know was decimated, and everywhere we went on Jewish tours, but we weren't really finding Jewish people, we were finding people who were saying, well, I think my grandmother might have been Jewish. They weren't raised Jewish. They were just reaching for their own Jewish roots, which I guess is a good thing. And it was a start, but it was kind of depressing. And we went to a service somewhere where they didn't do Mourner's Kaddish or any of the Kaddishes. And I asked the rabbi afterwards, why didn't you? There were 30 people in the room. He said there weren't 10 Jews. So that was kind of depressing. And what I also found throughout Poland was I came home very upset and depressed, never wanting to go back to Europe again, because to me it was just a graveyard. And the synagogues are mostly museums now, not living synagogues. But anyway, we went to this one town, which is in northeast Poland called Tikocin. I might be saying it wrong, Tikocin. And this is the synagogue. That's a very sad town. It lost all its Jews in a horrendous way in the forest. I could tell you that whole story, but it's Hanukkah, so I'm not going to go into that. But I found this synagogue so fascinating because it looks kind of normal on the outside. If you advance on the inside, the architecture, maybe somebody knows more about it than I do. It's all these, I guess Moorish, but I don't know where it comes from. Those curved everywhere, curved arches built. That's how it was built inside. And the bima is in the center. So it's like theater in the round. And it was white. It was like being in some kind of a cave, but it was just magnificent, I thought. It's no longer in use. There's no Jews in this town at all. So this is another museum. But what I like best, you can advance the slide, besides just the beauty of the synagogue and how different it was, is that the people were so poor, they didn't have enough money for Siddurim for everybody. So they would write a lot of the prayers all over the walls, and you can kind of see. So people in there could just look at the walls to find the prayer that they were saying. You could advance the slide. So there you could see more prayers written on the walls. And the synagogue had been restored at least once, if not more than once, because I think it had burned down, but I think it was restored as close to original as possible. You could see on the wall, there's the ark where the Torahs are kept, and I guess they're carried to the center gazebo or whatever you call that, where the bima is, and you can advance. I was trying to get a close-up on the words, but I couldn't read any of them. Well, maybe some of them, but I can't tell what prayers they are. But when I was there, I think I did recognize some. You could advance again. I think that's it. Maybe somebody can read some of that. That's the ark. That's all I want to say. I never forgot that synagogue. First of all, the town had such a sad story associated with it. And then I was just so shocked to walk into the synagogue and see that. So different from anything I've ever seen.
This is Judy. I wanted to make a comment. The synagogue in Istanbul also is very different. It has the bima is like Noah's Ark. So I think that it's not uncommon in different parts of Europe of how they constructed the synagogues.
Interesting. I had never seen, actually I have seen in some Orthodox shuls, I've seen something like that. But the surrounding, the white cave-like or arched walls, were so beautiful.
Let me ask if anybody has any questions for Lisa, and I will make my comments after.
I just want to say thank you so much. I found it very fascinating and interesting to learn about, more things about Hungary and Poland and to see what it was like there. Thank you for presenting. It was great. Thank you. That's all I can say is thank you.
So I want to leave, I'm coming back, but I want to leave where we are and share something that Lisa shared with me the other night that is a whole different mindset, if you will. If that was really sad, which it was, now she's going to tell you what this is.
It's going from darkness to light. And actually on that trip I was on, when they take the kids for a week through Poland, darkness, and then they bring them to Israel and they say, you're going from darkness to light. And Daniel, my youngest, is in Israel now. And this is a picture he sent us on the first night of Hanukkah. There's one light. And I mean, you can see these are huge structures because you can see the people standing next to them right on the, the promenade of Tel Aviv. I just thought that was just such a beautiful menorah. I had to share the picture.
Beautiful, thank
That's
you.
fabulous. Oh, wow.
And
Yeah.
it couldn't be, if I can take the words for a minute, it couldn't be a more perfect way to end, although there will be time to discuss, but to end what we saw with Larry and Edith and with you, Lisa, to see that there's hope and there is light. And it's not over. I mean, we're here. There is brightness and there's every reason to celebrate. And I think you managed to bring that together, even though I don't know if you really thought that's where we were going, but you took us there.
It worked out well.
It did. I couldn't have planned it if I tried. And I've been thinking a lot about the people who have presented and the people who are yet to present and the people whom I haven't tapped yet, if you will. We have gems in our synagogue, absolute hidden gems. And you all have so much to share. You have such a gift of memory and a gift of stories. We don't have to go places. We can listen to each other and learn from each other. And I can't thank you enough, Larry, Edith, Lisa, for tonight. It was wonderful. You did a fabulous job. Absolutely fabulous. You took us places that we weren't going, and you took us places back in the way of remembering, which I think is really important. So if anybody else has any comments, now that I've more than said my share, just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Ernie?
Carol, we thank you for bringing all the people together. All I can say is this was a fabulous afternoon. It was a relaxing, informative place. Thank you for all the participants, Edith and Larry and Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you, Ernie. Rabbi Eisenberg, I need to ask you a question, even though we're being recorded, or Cantor Naima. Do we do services first and our raffle last? That way everybody has to stay, or do we do it the other way? What's proper? Help me out here.
I would say it's a tough one. I don't
Sorry.
know if you have a record of all the people who've participated on this call, but it might be best to defer it to tomorrow night or something.
Well, Sharon's ready. She's got it.
Well, I don't like to hold people hostage.
Okay.
And unless, if somebody was inclined to jump off and miss Kabbalat Shabbat, but would stay because of a $10 Target gift card.
I don't think they have to be present.
Then I don't know. So yeah, so I think it's okay to do the raffle now.
Okay.
And I would feel more comfortable. I just think in terms of the spirit of Shabbat,
That's fine.
I would rather do that now and then go into, we're going to have an abbreviated Kabbalat Shabbat service. So it's not going to be the usual length. We really want to encourage and invite people to stay on, because Cantor Nima will really lead a beautiful and spiritual brief service to usher in Shabbat.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were doing it right. So Sharon, drum roll, please.
Shameless plug for Ithaca College. Okay, let's see who we got. Brian Bedford.
Okay.
All right.
Brian, congratulations. You are the proud winner of a $10 Target gift card.
That's what you get
Right.
for all the work on all those committees, Brian.
Yeah, very good. Well, hey, beats nothing, that's for sure. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
it does. Okay, I'm putting it down so I know who gets the card. Okay, I am going to not end, but I'm going to end this part of the program and turn it over to Cantor Naima. Tomorrow night, we are flying to India because I don't think we can drive there with Debbie Shyman. And Sunday night, we're going to Sarajevo with a colleague of Debbie Shyman's, which should be also fascinating. We don't know him, but by the end of the evening, we all will have met David Pettigrew.
Is it
And
Debbie-
then-
is it Debbie Weiss or Debbie Shyman? Debbie Weiss.
Debbie Shyman is tomorrow night, Debbie Weiss's friend,
Debbie Weiss.
David Pettigrew. Okay.
What time is tomorrow night?
7. And don't forget that on Wednesday, Coffee and Conversation at 10, we will be hearing from our own Irving Glazer again about his experiences during World War II, and he'll take us, I believe, past Utah Beach. Mariel, if you're still there, I'd like to thank you for joining us. I'm sure you're very proud of your dad. He did a great job, and we're glad you came back to Rodeph Sholom.
Yes, she had said a thing saying, I miss Rodeph Sholom and appreciate the opportunity to spend this time with all you. She texted me and she said she had to get dinner on the table for the little one who would be cranky otherwise.
Well, this was recorded, so she'll hear it.
Okay, good. She just
Okay.
hopped off literally a minute ago, so.
Okay. All right. Please
Thank
give
you
her our message, our love, and Cantor Naima, take it away.
Thank you, and Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So while the candles are still lit, we turn our attention to Kabbalat Shabbat, receiving Shabbat with all these extra lights in our homes. Welcome Shabbat, the bride, with Yedid Nefesh on page 14, for those who have the Siddur. And I think I will start with the last verse, which has light in it. So it's a very appropriate verse on page 14 on the English side. Reveal yourself, beloved, for all the world to see, and shelter me in peace beneath your canopy. Illumine all creation, lighting up the earth, and we shall celebrate you in choruses of mirth. The time, my love, is now. Rush, be quick, be bold. Let your favor grace me in the spirit of days of old. Higalena ufros chavivi alai et sukkot shelomach ta'ir eretz mikvodach nagila v'nismecha bach ma'er ahuv kiva moed v'choneni ki yemei olam. Please turn to page 15, the first of 7 Psalms for Friday night. And with this Psalm, we say goodbye to last Sunday. Each one of these Psalms represents a goodbye to last week. Lechu neranen al Adonai nariya letzurishenu. 40 שנה קוד בדור, ואומרם טועי לבב הם, והם לא ידעו דרכי, אשר נשבעתי ואפי, אם יבואון אל מנוחתי. Page 16, and with page 16, with this psalm, we're saying goodbye to last week, to Monday. שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, שירו לאדוני כל הארץ. Rabbi, please conclude the psalm on page 16.
לפני אדוני קיווה, קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, ויאמין באמונתו.
Page 17, אדוני מלך תגל הארץ, ישמחו איים רבים. Again, we are into light, the light in store for the righteous, joy for the honorable, rejoice in Adonai. אורז הרוח לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. אורז הרוח לצדיק ולישרי לב שמחה. שמחו צדיקים באדוני והודו לזכר קודשו. שמחו צדיקים באדוני והודו לזכר קודשו. Rabbi, please take over page 18, Mizmor.
מזמור שירו לאדוני שיר חדש, כי נפלאות עשה. ירם הים ומלוא תבל ויושבי בה, נהרות יכחף יחד הרים ירננו, לפני אדוני קיווה לשפוט הארץ, ישפוט תבל בצדק, ויאמין במישרים.
Page 19, אדוני מלך ירגזו עמים, יושב קרובים תנות הארץ, אדוני בציון גדול ורם מול כל העמים. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו, והשתחוו להר קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. Page 20. Rabbi, you want to begin?
מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בני אלים, הבו לאדוני כבוד ועוז, הבו לאדוני כבוד שמו, השתחוו לאדוני בהדרת קודש, כל אדוני על המים, אל הכבוד ירים אדוני על מים רבים, כל אדוני בכוח, כל אדוני בהדר, כל אדוני שובר ארזים, וישבר אדוני ארזי הבנון, וירקידם כמו עגל לבנון בסיריון, כמו בן רמים. כל אדוני חוצב לעבוד אש, כל אדוני יכיל מדבר, יכיל אדוני מדבר קדש, כל אדוני יכול אליו, ויחשוף יערות, ובהיכלו כולו, אומר כבוד. אדוני למה בו ישב, וישב אדוני מלך לעולם, אדוני עוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום.
לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת, נקבלה, come my beloved, and let's welcome Shabbat. לך דודי לקראת כלה פני שבת, נקבלה, שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל המיוחד. אחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם ולתפארת ולתהילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי מקור הברכה, מראש מקדם נסוכה, סוף מעשה במחשבה תחילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, מקדש מלך עיר מלוכה, קומצי מתוך ההפכה, רב לך שבט בעמק הבכה, והוא יחמול עלי חמלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, התנערי מעפר קומי, לבשי בגדי תפתח עמי, על יד בן ישי בית הלחמי, קורבה אל נפשי גאלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך קומי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה. Rabbi, pick up page 22.
לא תבושי ולא תקמי, מה תשתוכחי ומה תהמי, בככסו אני עמי ונבנתה עירתי לה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, בהיו למשיסה שוסייך ורחקו כל מבלייך, יסיס עלייך אלוהייך, כמסוס קטן על כלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, ימין ושמאל תפרוצי ואת אדוני תעריצי, על יד איש בן פרצי, ונשמחה ונגילה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, בואי בשלום התרפלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, תוך אמוני ים סגולה, בואי חלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת נקבלה.
Page 23. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. מזמור שיר, מזמור שיר ליום השבת. טוב לדעת אדוני זה משך ולא צדיק התמר יפרח, כרז בלבנון יזכה, שתולים בבית אדוני, בחצרות אלוהינו יפריחו. עוד ינובון בשיבה, דשנים ורעננים יהיו, להגיד כי ישר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו. Page 24, Rabbi.
Adonai malach yut lavesh. Eidotecha nemnu ma'ol leveit chana b'kodesh Adonai liorech yamim. Mourner's Kaddish, page 24, Mourner's Rise. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
V'yalma divrach dirutei v'yamlich malchutei v'chayechon
Vayechon
v'chaye b'chol Yisrael
Israel.
v'agala
Ubizman
kariv
Kariv
dimru amen.
Amen.
Yehei
Yehi
shmei
Shmei
Rabba
Rabba Mavar
mevorach leolam
Leolam
leomaya
Leomaya
yitbarach
Yitbarach
v'yishtabach
V'yishtabach
v'yitpa'ar
V'yitpa'ar
v'yitramam
V'yitraman
v'yitnaseh
V'yitnaseh
v'yithadar
V'yithadar
v'yithaleh v'yithalal
V'yithalal Shemei
shmei dukudesha
Kudisha Barichu
barichu leila
Leila
mikol
Mikol
birchata
Birchata
v'shirata
V'shirata
tushbechata
Tushbechata
v'nechemata
V'nechemata
damiran
Damiran
bi'alma
Bialma
v'imru
V'imru
amen.
Amen.
Yehei
Yehi Shlama
Rabba
Rabba
min
Min
Shemaya
Shemaya
B'chayim
Chaim
Aleinu
Aleinu
V'Yal
Kol
Yisrael
Yisrael
Yimru Amen.
Yimru Amen.
Oseh
Ose
Shalom
Shalom
Ramav
B'Ramav
Hu Yaseh
Uya
Shalom
Ase Shalom
Aleinu
Aleinu
V'Yal
Kol
Yisrael
Yisrael
Yimru Amen.
Yimru Amen.
We're now turning to the Ma'ariv service with the Baruch Hu on page 28. Baruch Hu et Adonai
Baruch
HaMevorach.
Adonai
Baruch Adonai
Barach
Barach Leolam
Leolam Va'ed
Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שבדברו מרי ורבים בחוכמה בדרך שרים נתונה משנה תיתים ומעביר יום ומביא לילה ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה אדוני צבאות שמו אל חי וקיים תמיד ימלוך עלינו לעולם ועד ברוך אתה אדוני המעריב הרבים.
Amen.
Page 29, Rabbi.
Ki em chayenu v'yorech yameinu Uvahem negei yomam v'alayla v'avat echad sasir mimenu li'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai echad V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha u'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shokbecha u'v'kumecha Ukshartam liot al yadecha, vayula totafot beinenecha, uchetavtam al mizuzot beitecha, uvisharecha.
אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. Page 32. אמת ואמונה כל זאת וקיים עלינו. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ובני ישראל הכנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות נורא תהילות נורא תהילות אוסף אלה מלכותך כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגואלו מיד חזק ממנו. ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל. השכיבנו, page 33, Rabbi. השכיבנו,
ושמור צאתנו ובואנו, לחיים ושלום יתה ביד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכת שלומך, ברוך אתה אדוני, הפורש סוכת שלום, עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ועל ירושלים.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש, וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש. רבי,
יתקדש שמי רבה, יברח ירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכנו ויומייכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה, ובזמן קורי ויאמרו אמן. שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם וליומי יומיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשא בריחו לעילם מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דה מהירן בעלמא ויאמרו amen. Silent Amidah, pages 35b through page 38. And remember to include the addition for Hanukkah on 37. Nisi via la porca da vorbe. Bime mati tiahu benuchan. Rodeph Sholom Shalom Aleinu.
You may continue Silent Amidah, and I am turning now to page 47 for Vayechulu. ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם, ויחל אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישבות ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. ויברך אלוהים את יום השביעי ויקדש אותו. כי בו שבת מכל מלאכתו אשר ברא אלוהים לעשות. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו, אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה, האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, קונה שמיים וארץ. מגן אבות בדברו, מחיה מתים במאמרו, האל הקדוש שאין כמוהו, המניח לעמו ביום שבת קודשו, כי בם רצה להניח להם, כי בם רצה להניח להם, לפניו נעבוד ביראה ופחד, ונודה לשמו בכל יום תמיד, מעין הברכות אל ההודעות. אדון השלום, מקדש השבת ומברך שביעי, ומניח בקדושה לעמת ושני עונג, זכר למעשה בראשית. אלוהינו ולאבותינו רצה במנוחתנו, קדשנו במצוותיך ותן חלקנו בתורתך, שבענו מטובך ושמחנו בישועתך, וטהר ליבנו לעובדך באמת. והנחילנו אדוני אלוהינו באהבה וברצון שבת קודשך, וינוחו בישראל מקדשי שמך. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת. קדיש שלם.
יגרה ויגרה שמי רבה, יאמר דברה חירותי והמגמח בדברך, יכונו ביומי יכונו בחיי בית ישראל, וגלב זמן קריב ויאמרו, אמן, ישמי רבה מבורך, לעולם עליום יומיה, יברך ושתבח ויפואר ונורא מנסה, ירדר וירדר שמי לקודשה, בריחו לעילם, עם כל ברכתה ושירתה, ישפחתה ונחמתה, דמרם בימה ויאמרו, אמן, תקבל צלרון ובארון לכל ישראל, קדם אבנו בשמי ויאמרו, אמן, יש לנו רבה משמי וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו, אמן, עושה שלום במרומה ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו, amen. Back to Cantor Ne'ima for Kiddush. It looks like you have grape juice there.
Yeah, I have grape juice.
It's grape juice and not real wine, huh?
No, not real wine right now. Yeah, we're just going with grape juice tonight.
Okay.
Okay.
Living dangerously.
סברי חבריי.
Chaim.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
אמן.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר קידשנו במצוותיו ורצבנו ושבת קודשו באהבה וברצון הנחילנו זיכרון למעשה בראשית כי הוא יום תחילה למקראי קודש זכר ליציאת מצרים כי
בנו בחרת אותנו קידשת מכל העמים
ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
Amen.
Aleinu, page 51. Is David available for Aleinu? David Goldstein? Probably not. Okay. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר ראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגור עלינו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים. לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא, שורות השמיים ויסוד הארץ, ומשלים כל בשמיים. כתוב למועד מעביר כתקן עולם במלכות שדי. ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Marianne. Okay.
Okay, the Yort sites for today, the 30th of Kislev, we remember Julius Israel, Irving Lipnick, Ida Lifshitz, and Mark Rabin. We recall with affection our members, member relatives, and others who have passed in the last year. Melvin Goldstein, Howard Burrows, Robert J. Ashkins, Phyllis Mankiewicz, Natalie Schwartz, Edward Shul, Rosalind Golden, Mila Nishbal, Rosalind Coleman, John Bedford, Joe Jonathan Kaplan, Sylvia Engelson, Judith S. Carpelo, Charles Richer, Harvey Sherwood, Ira Schildkraut, Alex Ravage, Harry Morgenthaler, Bertha White, Stanley Karp, Marilyn Groggins, Lee Prager, Marsha Blank Smith, Edith Applebaum, and Marilyn Rappoport. Mourners Kaddish.
Yid Gadal, V'yid Kadash, Shemei
Rabbah,
Bialma, Bivrach Hirute, Biamlech Malchute, B'chayechon, Yomechon, U'v'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'gala, U'v'zman Kariv, V'imru,
Amen.
Yehi Shmei, Rabba Mevorach, Leolam, Umeomaya,
Amaya,
Yitbarach,
Yishtabach,
Yitpawar, Yitromam, Yitnase, Yithadar, Yithaleh, Yithalal,
Halal,
Shmei,
Kudisha,
Arichu, Le'ela, Minko, Birchata, Shirata, Tushbechata, Menechemata, Damiran, Biyama, V'imru, Amen. Yehesh,
Shlama,
Rabba,
Min Shemaya, B'chayim
Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru,
Amen.
Oseh
Shalom,
Shalom Bimromav, Hu Yaseh Shalom, Aleinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru,
Amen.
If anyone has any comments about a Yort site name, we welcome you to share your thoughts.
The announcement is Carol. You're gonna say anything about upcoming program right now?
I think I covered everything through Wednesday, but I wanted to welcome Iris Gomberg, who we haven't seen on any of our programs or services before. She is a longtime member, and Iris, we welcome you. We're glad that you joined us. We'd love to see your face, but you've got it covered up. So welcome and come back anytime. You've heard all the programs. We'd love to see you.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay, Nima, thank you.
Okay, maybe I'll sing Shalom Aleichem and then Rabbi will have some parting words for us afterward. Is that okay? So Shalom Aleichem is on page 13. We are welcoming the angels of peace. The angels are up high the angels who are most sublime. We welcome them to our Shabbat to spend the next 24 hours with us. As they are angels, we don't see them, but we know that they are around us. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bochem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu ni l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. בצאתכם לשלום, מלאכי השלום, מלאכי העליון, ממלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Yasher Koach, Cantor Ne'ima. And I want to thank 4 of our treasures, and I really mean treasures. Edith and Larry and Lisa, we treasure you, and we so appreciate your efforts to enlighten us and to share with us tonight your experiences and knowledge about faraway lands and our Jewish roots. Carol, another one of our great treasures. I don't know of many, or if any, synagogues that can replicate what we do to make Hanukkah so special, and also to pull us out of our own kind of, in some cases, fairly solitary, isolated, and sometimes even lonely world in our homes, and with COVID and with everything else going on, to kind of allow us to share Hanukkah, not only with our own families, but with our synagogue family, and with some very special guests who have been joining us over the last several nights. This has really been truly wonderful. And Carol, you're just going to have to already get those wheels turning. And I'm sure, and if I know you, I know they already are, for what you're going to do next year for Hanukkah. So this has really been great. One last thing. One thing that you can always rely upon with me is that I am very consistent about being inconsistent, and very consistent about my imperfections. And so when I announced the Amidah, I forgot to remind you, or all of us, to say the additional prayer for Rosh Chodesh. So tonight, tomorrow, and Sunday, not only is it Hanukkah and Shabbat, but it's also the new month of Tevet. And that's why tomorrow at services, we're going to be not only saying the Hallel, but we're going to be taking out 3 Torahs. So anyone among you who are heavy lifters, okay? Billy, you hear me? Anyway, any of you who are, we're going to need a few heavy lifters for the heavy Torahs tomorrow. There's only 1 light Torah and 2 heavy ones. But don't let that scare you away, because tomorrow there will be an abundance of special liturgy and just, again, liturgical and synagogue treasures, worshiping treasures, to be able to share and experience with one another tomorrow. And finally, the service will not be much, if any, longer tomorrow than it ever is, because Rabbi Rick and Cantor Naima will move things along. Having said that, I wish all of you a Shabbat Shalom and a beautiful Hanukkah. And thanks again, Carol and everybody, for a wonderful program tonight.
Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi.
Shabbat Shalom, guys.
Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
Shalom. It was a wonderful program. Thank you, ladies and
Yes.
gentlemen.
Really
It
great.
was
Very, very
wonderful.
good.
We
Great
appreciate
job.
Thank you.
Lisa.
We appreciate it.
Rabbi,
Very well done.
did Rabbi go off?
Beautifully done.
No, there he is. Okay, Rabbi, I was going to say that's one
Where
thing
are
you
you,
do
Larry, my
consistently.
traveler?
That's one
What,
thing you
Larry?
do. I said that's one thing you do consistently. You and Nima try to move it along,
Yes, thank you, Larry.
and we appreciate it.
Larry,
Yes.
Thanks, Larry.
Larry,
I
Thank you,
appreciate you too, Larry.
Larry.
Thank you. Okay.
Larry, your
Shabbat
travel
shalom.
I
buddy
gotta
is
go.
looking
Bye,
for you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Edith, are you
Take
trying to
care.
talk to me?
Larry, yes,
Okay.
Edith is
Shabbat
trying to
shalom.
talk to you.
Yes, speak, Edith.
want to make sure that you get fit, Larry.
You're breaking up. I can't hear you.
Put your hand down, Edith. You're blocking the sound. Oh,
Oh,
Edith.
I just wanted to hope that Larry, hope you get home safely from the trip. And we can travel again to.
Oh, yes, yes. I did get home safely. Yes. Yes.
We worked together.
We did. We
cooperated.
worked well together. We will take another trip soon.
Okay, I'm game anytime.
Okay.
Bloom is a wonderful place.
It is wonderful indeed. And Carol, I mean, everybody said it, but it needs to be said again. You just put together the most magnificent programs, and you have a way. I had no idea I was going to do anything. You know, you draw out, you make people want to contribute, and that's an art. That's the art of the teacher. That's the
Thank
art of
you.
the teacher that you are.
Thank you. Lisa,
Carol,
thank
I
you for
don't
the-
know how to do it time and time again.
Lisa, I want to
Lisa,
ask you
thank
one
you for the
question, Lisa.
pictures
So you
and the
said,
PowerPoint.
Lisa, you said that your tour guide told you about that incident in the synagogue? Yeah, I don't remember. Because I was looking over my notes again. By the way, I had 5 pages of font 9 print that different things that I'd printed out. And today and yesterday I went over like just with a highlighter because I knew I couldn't, I could have talked an hour myself, which I didn't want to do, of course. But the only other thing I saw was it says it was bombed by the synagogue was bombed by the Hungarian pro-Nazi Arrow Cross Party in 1939, and then it was used as a German radio station and as a stable. So it did, and it also suffered some severe damage from aerial raids also. But the point is that I didn't see anything like that. But I'm going to look into that. I'd like because if you're what Larry's talking about is that when we were there, and we had a tour guide, and then I don't remember if it was he who told us or if it was the guide person associated with the synagogue. But the story we heard was that, I think Larry said the capacity of the Great Synagogue is 3,000, and we heard that many more than that Jews were herded into it and barricaded from the outside so they couldn't get out and kept there for at least 3 days or more. It was, you can imagine the nightmare that they suffered in there, but they weren't set on fire, but like Larry said, he didn't come across that in his research, and I haven't looked. That story is burned in my brain. So, who knows if it's the correct story or not, but even if it's not, it happened all over Europe. It happened.
Right, exactly. There were cases where the synagogues were burned and people were burned alive.
My father's relatives, as far as we can tell, my father's relatives were herded into their synagogue in Poland, near Tikocin, the town I talked about, and burned to death.
Yeah. It's very possible, Lisa, that, because the Nazis, most of the Hungarians were not taken until 1944. which is the real shame of it, because
Mhm.
I
Right, they
mean, you know, I
made it
mean, you know,
almost to the end.
they made
Right.
it, almost made it to the end. And that's, I mean, I know that it particularly, you know, just resonates and burns so deeply in me. But I'm wondering if it was the sort of thing like the thing in France, in Paris, where they took the Jews, you know, to that sports facility and they kept them there for 3-4 days, but then they transported them to death camps. So I wonder if in 1944, maybe that was the sort of thing, they just were kept there. But I'll do some more research. I definitely
Yeah,
want to look
that
it
could
up.
be it. I don't remember much about the story. I just remember being in that magnificent place and
Yeah.
picturing the horror of being locked in there with way too many people for too
Yeah.
many days.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
Yeah, in
I
fact-
think you also have research, Lisa, I'm sorry to give this to you, with the connection between Sherry Mandel and your family. And
Yeah,
what
I didn't
Edith
know, I didn't know about that, Edith. I didn't know we were connected. Did you hear that for sure, that we're connected? She spells it differently, but that doesn't mean anything because Mandel is Mandel.
They were our sponsors, and my father went to Detroit to thank them.
Interesting. Oh, so I do remember hearing that a person by that name, a family by that name sponsored you, but I didn't know that family was connected to Sherry Mandel, whose son died.
Yeah, this is the same family.
Oh, interesting. Didn't know.
Who knew?
Yeah, crazy. Well, it's a small
Yeah.
Jewish world.
Right, and they changed the spelling of the name.
Yeah.
Mike's name, father's name wasn't Weinshell, it was Wanshell. And then they split open the A to make it E and I. So when people ask if you're related to Weinshells, I can unequivocally say no, because
Yeah.
it wasn't the name.
Right. Well, my mother's name wasn't Catherine either, but that's the name they gave her at Ellis Island. Right? It was Catherine or some Kata. It was like Catherine, but it wasn't.
Katy.
Because Catherine's not typically a Jewish name, so people are always like, really? Her name's Catherine? I go, yeah.
Well, Catherine, there was a queen in Catherine in Russia. I guess that was a famous name. So people picked up on names of
Yeah, and who's to say, remember the Mandel on your grandfather's tombstone was spelled kind of a weird way. So who knows how that translates to English? Could spell a million ways in English.
a lot of things which were changed as you got off the ship.
Right. Anyway, I
Okay,
gotta
I'm gonna
run.
go, I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
go grab a
You too.
bite to eat,
Shabbat
and
shalom.
we'll see. I'll be there tomorrow. We'll see some of you there or all of you there tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, stay
Shabbat
warm.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Good night,
shalom.
everyone.
Shabbat, bye, Shabbat shalom.